The protagonist of the story is Kim Soo-Ho, who goes by the name Lloyd Frontera in this world. He is a simple civil engineer, and along with his assistant, Javier, they plan to revolutionize the world and turn their land into a source of wealth, earning the title of money-making monster. A few years ago, Kim woke up in a small village and was informed that he had become a supreme being and would now play the role of a character in the Iron-Blooded Engineer novel. As Kim tries to come to terms with his new reality, he realizes that his reincarnation resembles the webtoons he often reads. However, he is confused as to why he woke up with his face in the ground in the middle of nowhere. The constant pop-up windows from the systems irritate him. He was pondering his character's role in the novel until Javier interrupts him. Javier is the main character of the novel and starts out as a regular knight, but as the story progresses, he becomes known all over the continent as the swordsman Javier and the light in front of the hooligans. This will be a nightmare if they went back home. Javier informed Lloyd that he had been drinking during the day, causing him to destroy furniture in the bar. On his way back home, he stumbled and fell to the ground. His father was concerned and sent him home, not wanting to mourn the loss of an unwise son. Lloyd noticed that the ground was incredibly cold, making it impossible for him to sleep. Just as Javier was about to leave, Lloyd stopped him and questioned him about the financial state of his family. Javier, surprised by the inquiry, replied with a dismissive, "That's a new word for me," before storming out of the room. Lloyd knew the outcome without asking, as the Baron and his wife would eventually fall victim to a swindler and take their own lives, losing all their possessions. Lloyd also became drunken and ultimately died after vomiting blood. It was a sad ending, just like his real life. In the morning, Marbella Frontera, Lloyd's mother, approached him about his behavior from the previous day. She instructed him to go apologize for his actions. To everyone's surprise, Lloyd agreed to apologize, but people in the village still avoided him, even children, who warned each other not to look at him. Lloyd needed to change his image quickly, as he had the advantage of living a comfortable life as the Baron's son. He checked for any cheat systems to use, but the only skills he had were scumbag and troublesome drunkard, which must have been a joke. Finally, they arrived at the bar, and Javier took a close look at Lloyd's expression. There was a noticeable change in him since the previous night. He appeared as a completely different person. The inside of the bar was a mess, with broken furniture scattered everywhere. Lloyd apologized to the bar owner, but his actions and behavior had caused the owner to lose trust in him. Despite his apology, Lloyd did not look genuinely remorseful. The bar owner was afraid of him, and his reputation had taken a severe hit. Lloyd asked, "Why is the bar owner upset?" Javier explained, "The owner is upset because Lloyd caused destruction to the bar, which the owner worked hard to acquire. Also, the owner's mother is still recovering from the cold from last winter and Lloyd has now ruined the business." Lloyd felt remorseful for his actions. He was thinking about the fact that they still hadn't discovered the heating system, but then a thought crossed his mind. He realized there was no heating system in this world, but if he could build one, he would be successful. Kim Soo-Ho, a civil engineer, had an idea that he was confident would sell quickly. This was due to his experience in building homes and working as a construction worker. He had constructed many houses while serving in the army and had worked tirelessly as a construction worker. Soo-Ho believed his background would help him succeed in his new project. He would start by paying off all debts and then return to the bar to place his first order. Suddenly, a new window popped up and his real journey began. The RP system had been activated, which stood for relationship points, which he could earn by improving his relationships with important characters. That changes everything. Lloyd didn't quite understand what was meant by RP, but he knew it had something to do with the key characters. So, he looked at Javier with very suspicious eyes. His favorable impression of him was ridiculously low. He wanted to try something, so he looked at Javier in a very attractive way and said, "You're looking really handsome today." Javier was disgusted by him, and his impression was getting even lower than before. Lloyd knew he needed to stop before he made him angry. They arrived at the bar again, and Lloyd prepared the contract to build the heating system for the bar owner. He would pay for what he destroyed last time through this building operation. However, as expected, the bar owner didn't believe a single word coming out of Lloyd's mouth. He even used the mind wall skill to block any kind of mind manipulation. Lloyd didn't have a choice, so he threatened the bar owner and then immediately signed the contract without hesitation. Lloyd is such a scumbag. Finally, he got his first contract. Javier asked him, "Why did you threaten the bar owner and force him to sign the contract? This is a despicable act." Lloyd looked at him with calm eyes and told him that everyone expects him to be a scumbag because of what he did in the past. This is why no one will trust or believe him if he tries to be genuine and honest with them anymore. This surprised Javier. When he started to talk with a reasonable mind, he would make the bar owner and his mother happy. No matter what, their smile would be the foundation of his money empire. Lloyd started digging into the ground and hitting it with his shovel. Then he started to build using the wood from his family warehouse. But his body couldn't keep up with him, and he was too tired. However, he quickly got interrupted by Javier. He was surprised by what Lloyd did for the first time. He did something useful in his life. All the parts of his body were hurting, but he needed to keep going. He tried to slice the wood, but when he lifted up the axe, he was about to fall. Javier caught him and took the axe from him. He offered to help and demonstrated his impressive wood-slicing abilities by throwing the logs into the air and cutting them perfectly with his sword mastery skills. Despite this incredible feat, instead of expressing gratitude, he was asked to assist with digging the ground. Javier was eager to find out what was being built, and by working together, they were able to complete the construction quickly. The long-awaited room was finally finished, much to the delight of the bar owner and his mother, who were thrilled with the warm and cozy atmosphere. The room was decorated beautifully with the company's logo on the wall, and the bar owner was grateful to Lloyd for his efforts in bringing a smile to his mother's face. Javier was amazed by the outcome and realized that Lloyd had changed. Despite the room's success, Lloyd faced challenges in convincing people to hire him to build another one. He offered a contract but faced skepticism, resorting to threatening them, until he was interrupted by his father, Lloyd Frontera, whose impression of him was -20. During a meal at their mansion, his father asked about his plans, and he explained that he built a heated room for the owner. However, his father warned him not to lie to those who can't tolerate it anymore and reassured him that he will handle the family's situation. Before he entered the world, he had already heard these words. At that moment, he believed that everything was going to turn out alright, but it turned out to be false. He left and encouraged his father to not lose hope and to persist as he would as well. In his room, he pondered about the RP point and how he could utilize it. The system then initiated a scan of him to determine his strengths, and during the scan, it discovered all the information on civil engineering within his mind. As a result, it gave him the capability to utilize his existing knowledge to its fullest extent. The skills he received were based on his existing understanding of basic measurement and design. Having accumulated sufficient RP points, he decided to choose both skills. The first was basic measurement, which enabled him to measure with just his eyes. The second was basic design, which allowed him to rapidly create and design anything in his mind. These skills would prove to be extremely helpful, but he still wished he possessed the knowledge to create heavy machinery or the ability to summon them. The system quickly responded by telling him that summoning was a possibility. Excited by this news, Lloyd asked the system to show him a random draw for a fantasy species, which required 50 RP points, but he only had one remaining. If he was correct, a fantasy species could be anything he desired and would serve the same purpose as heavy machinery. His new objective now was to acquire as many RP points as possible so he could summon his desired fantasy species. As he walked, Lloyd encountered the Lone Shark group, consisting of Meatloaf and Shayla, who walked past him without acknowledging his presence. Lloyd quickly regained his composure. They entered the Baron's office and continued to disrespect Lloyd's father by telling him he had 5 days left to pay his debt, or they would take action. Lloyd listened as they belittled his father. It was the perfect opportunity for him to step in. Meatloaf even threatened to sell Baron's wife and mates if he couldn't repay his debt. The Baron remained speechless in shock, but Lloyd walked up to them and asked if they thought it was acceptable to have no manners just because they were creditors. Meatloaf asked who he was, and upon realizing he was the idiot's son, he told Lloyd not to interfere in adult conversation. However, before he could finish, Lloyd asked to see his invitation letter. Both Meatloaf and Shayla were confused by the request. Lloyd then explained one of the kingdom's noble laws, stating that every noble in the kingdom has the right to protect their rights and interests, and entering a noble's mansion without an invitation is equivalent to trespassing. This was news to Meatloaf and Shayla, who became angry and asked to see proof of the law. Lloyd then called Javier and entered the office. He instructed Javier to cut off the trespasser's arms, causing Meatloaf and Shayla to become frightened and run away, not calming the situation. Despite their threats of going to court, Lloyd was not deterred and was willing to see which side the court would take. They quickly ran away, scared about what they had done. This wouldn't help calm things down. Lloyd put a bag of money on the table and said that it wasn't enough, but it would last for some time. His father told him not to extort money from people. Javier reassured him not to worry and that he would keep a close eye on him. The Baron trusted Javier's judgment and decided to see what would happen. As they walked, Javier asked Lloyd how an ignorant person like him knew about the law. Lloyd replied that he had read it in a novel. After the couple's death, the two loan sharks had wanted to dig for their corpses and sell them. At that time, he had said that Lofi slices the two people's hands. Knowing the contents of the novel was a great benefit, and this was the moment he had been waiting for. The Baron's impression of Lloyd increased, and he now had 61 RP points, as he had planned. He could now afford one of the fantasy species. When night came, Lloyd went outside to use the random draw. He pressed the button and let the magic begin. Some gears showed up, it was amazing. However, there was one problem. The spell was too small and made some nasty noise. At that moment, a cute little animal came out of it. Lloyd was disappointed. He had imagined a strong beast or dragon, but instead, he got a cute little hamster. What a waste of his RP points. The hamster was devastated after hearing Lloyd's disappointment. However, Lloyd was able to understand what the hamster was saying. The hamster told him that he had some wonderful abilities and asked him to show them. The hamster chewed a little and spit out a manual. The manual told Lloyd to take care of him with love and sunflower seeds. The red seed would make him huge and the blue seed would make him small, and the effect would last for 12 hours. Lloyd investigated the situation and fed the hamster a red seed. Once consumed, the hamster underwent a transformation, growing to be 5 meters tall and over 10 meters in size. The hamster now looked at Lloyd with a haughty expression and possessed 3 abilities: digging, solidifying the ground, and a skill called Cheat PA. With these new powers, Lloyd's problem with heavy machinery was resolved. However, Lloyd had to be cautious in showing off the creature as it would raise suspicions. He devised a plan to pretend to be a skilled summoner by bringing a summoner's book. Lloyd was so clever, it almost made him dizzy. The only remaining challenge was the worker issue. Lloyd summoned the Baron's army and expressed his frustration with their idleness. He made it clear that they were soldiers who must listen to him and work to revive the estate, starting with the construction of a heated room. The soldiers looked skeptical, but Lloyd anticipated this reaction. Just then, he was interrupted by the Barony's senior knight, Newman, who asked about Lloyd's actions in commandeering his troops. There are 3 knights in the estate: Newman, Byron, and Javier Azarin, the novel's protagonist. When things started to collapse, this person was the first one to betray and leave the Baron. Not only that, but he also sold information about the Baron to the swindlers. He is the one who has a lot of debt to pay. How can this piece of crap be a senior knight? Newman told Lloyd. He couldn't believe that he made his soldiers do this dirty work. He couldn't accept that as a senior knight. While Lloyd tells him that he got the Baron's permission, Newman said to him that he couldn't understand how he fools the Baron. But looking at your past, it looks like you're using this military for your personal purposes. Newman asked Lloyd if he was wrong about it. To which Lloyd replied, "No, you are absolutely right." Newman was crushing his teeth with anger. Lloyd uses his shovel and splashes a bunch of dirt on the senior knight. All the soldiers were shocked. Even Newman didn't believe what just happened. He became boiling with anger. Did he just try to insult a knight? But Lloyd was pretending not to hear him and mocking him even more. Lloyd took his shovel and pointed it at Newman and said, "Let's go for a duel." Newman had enough from him, and he will regret this. He will absolutely smoke him out. In a month's time, Lloyd will engage in a duel with Newman. He approaches Javier to request lessons in sword fighting, but is immediately turned down. Javier explains that his role is to protect Lloyd, and that teaching him sword skills may put those around him in greater danger. Lloyd then mentions that he has information on a cure for Javier's insomnia, to which Javier is shocked as no one else knows about it. It is revealed that Javier has already read the novel and is aware of everything. He acknowledges that his heightened senses, as he approaches mastery in sword fighting, are the cause of his insomnia and reluctantly agrees to Lloyd's offer. The next day, Javier tasks Lloyd with running 50 laps. To his surprise, Lloyd begins running without any objections. As he runs, Javier thinks to himself that Lloyd will eventually give up, allowing him to dismiss him with the statement, "You don't have what it takes." However, Lloyd's determination impresses Javier and brings back memories of his own hard work from a past life. Javier's approval rating of Lloyd increases by 1 point, and he is now ready to teach him sword fighting. A message appears on screen, indicating the increase in approval rating. We see the Baron having a chat with Newman. The Baron asks him to go easy on Lloyd as he was the heir of the estate. Newman accepts it but has already plotted to kill Lloyd. As the Baron tries to interrupt him, he was also ready to kill both the Baron and Baroness and disguise it as a suicide. 1 month has passed, and we see Newman and Lloyd standing face to face for a duel. The Baron was really worried for his son. Newman asks him if he was ready. He swings his shovel and puts it on his shoulders, with a grin on his face, ready for the fight. And with that, folks, today's adventure comes to an end. But fear not, for there's more excitement to come. So don't forget to spread the word, give us a thumbs up, and hit that subscribe button for the next thrilling installment.